morning, everyone, and welcome to episode 40. That's right, episode 40 of the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show on this lovely Saturday morning in Tunica, Mississippi on May 6, 2023. I'm your co-host, Jack Fredericks, editor of GodzillaWins.com, alongside my father, who will be joining us later, the Godzilla of Truth, John Fredericks, and of course, the degenerate we all know and love, senior Godzilla Wins contributor Nate Perry. We're with our esteemed panel of perfect sports predictors from the Godzilla Wins universe, our fight guy and senior South Florida lifestyles editor, Patrick Assalone. Beard Vet's own Sean George may be joining us later. America's Sherriff David Clarke, and Godzilla Wins UFC analyst Trent Connor. Also, senior baseball and NHL contributor Dan Angell should be joining us pretty soon, a little later in the show. We have a terrific show for you kind folks today. For the first 45 minutes, that's right, 45 minutes, we're talking UFC 288. Then at 9:15, we're going to switch to the NHL playoffs, give you some picks there. We'll do some NBA overreactions for you for the playoffs. So interesting stuff happening. And then the Kentucky Derby preview you've all been waiting for the Derby, which is today. This is the Godzilla Wins Saturday Pick Show, and it starts right now. Okay, welcome everyone to the show. Glad to see you.
Morning, Jack.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. So today we're going to talk a little bit of UFC 288. This is a big fight card, a lot of really fun fights on the card, both the undercard and some of the main card. So it should be a lot of fun here. We're going to start, as always, with our undercard fight you're most excited about. So this is the fight that maybe not is on everybody's radar, but either from a betting perspective or a fight perspective, something you're really interested in. Patrick, I'd like to start with you here, UFC 288. What's the one fight you think you're really interested in? Well,
beside the main event fights, of course, I'm looking at the Kron Gracie Charles Jourdain fight. Kron Gracie just disappeared after his last fight. I think he's been off something like 3 or 4 years, just gone in the wind for God knows whatever reason. In his last fight and his fights previous to that, he loves to come forward. I am not shocked by his stand-up ability. It's really not that great. But he can take a freaking beating. Now, it's been 4 years. What has he learned? Has he improved on his game? If he's smart, he completely changed his game around. He's been striking for 4 years, because that would throw a wrench in the works of everybody. What do we know about Kron Gracie? He comes from the Gracie family. Hickson is his father, arguably the greatest Gracie there is. Now, I take exception with that. I think Henzo is the best, because Henzo had a lot more fights in MMA, put himself out there a lot more, fought a lot more people, but Hickson is always considered the boogeyman. No joke. It's just the way that it is. Phenomenal ground game. ADCC champion 2013. The question is, what's changed? What has he learned? What's changed? Jourdain, on the other hand, is going to throw bombs in bunches. He's going to keep coming forward. He's going to keep throwing. And the truth of the matter is, the last time, and again, it's 4 years, but if you go based upon 4 years ago, Gracie's just going to keep coming forward and Jourdain is just going to keep throwing bombs. So the key to Jourdain winning here is staying on his feet, sticking and moving, hitting hard, and not going to the ground.
Okay, Nate, I may throw this to you for a minute. You might not have it up. Can you give us the odds for that fight?
Yeah,
if you need a minute, we'll go to Trent.
No, yeah. So Kron Gracie's a plus 145 right now, just on the money line odds, and Charles Jourdain's a minus 170.
Okay, so Jourdain kind of a heavy favorite, but for the UFC, I mean, minus 170 is not exactly like that heavy. I mean, I've seen minus 400 before, minus 600. We've seen that. So just to be clear, Patrick, who are you taking? Kron Gracie in this fight? You like the dog?
I'm going to take Kron Gracie just because he's a wild card and no one has any idea what he's been up to in 4 years. If he does what he did in his last fight, we know he can take a beating. Can he get it to the ground? If he gets it to the ground, I think it's not going to be too much of a problem for him. Again, what's changed and what has he learned? I doubt he's coming into this fight not being prepared after 4 years being gone.
All right, so you like Kron Gracie there. I'm writing that one down. put on my betting card. Love a little underdog, especially in the UFC, where anything can happen. I love picking those types of dogs. Little wild card should be fun. Trent, we'll go to you next. Who's a fight in the undercard that you're kind of excited about?
I think the most exciting fight on the card probably is Drew Dober and Matt Frivola. They both come forward. They both have heavy hands. And I think Frivola's not been out of the first round in his past 3 fights. So he's an exciting fighter to watch. And Dober he's a gamer. He likes to throw down. He likes to brawl. He's always in brawls. He's got a chin on him. He hasn't been knocked out in quite some time. If he has been knocked out, he's always there, no matter how long the fight is. And it's definitely going to be an exciting fight. The thing to look out for is if Frivola decides to wrestle, because he is a pretty capable wrestler. And Dober typically likes to stand, but can wrestle a little bit. But I'd say Frivola has the edge in the wrestling department. But I don't think this fight lasts long. I think they get in there and they bang. And if it lasts long, I'd take the Dober side. The longer it goes.
Do you like any of those first round props then?
Yeah, I would. Frivola in the first round would be the prop I would take a shot on. But Dober's a tough guy, and Frivola's going to have a tough time putting him out. But Frivola's made a name for himself by putting guys out. So
one of the things I love about fighting when it comes to picking this stuff is that there's some predictive methods. I mean, obviously anything can happen in the octagon, but if you get a guy who has often shown that he likes to get in there and bang, knock people out, get the fight over with, those odds are just so tremendous for like a first round KO, first round TKO, what have you. I mean, you can get such great plus money. And for someone who likes to in the fight in the first round, to me, those are like easy picks. Doesn't mean it's always going to work out, but the plus money is so much better than just picking a side in that fight. So I like that Frivola first round pick, and we'll have to see if it pans out. Nate, we'll go to you next. On any undercard fight that you like from a betting perspective.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm kind of surprised Patrick didn't take the Dober Frivola fight, because that feels like it's right up his alley. Just 2 guys just going in there and just throwing hands. Yeah, I like another one that I think could probably end early. And I'm sort of interested to see Rolando Bedoya is making his UFC debut tonight, and he's fighting Chaos Williams. And I'm sort of interested to see what that looks like based on the research I've done on Bedoya and like what I've kind of looked at. It doesn't look like he's faced the most quality competition. He's mostly been fighting in his native Peru. So it's a little bit hard to get a read on him, but Chaos Williams is a guy who's going to go out there and he's going to try and knock him out, right? He's going to try and just go out there and get a finish. He's 4-2 in the UFC, and he's already got 3 knockouts that are under performance of the night. So he's a guy that's like willing to just go out there and leave it out there. So I kind of have been looking at this fight, and Chaos Williams a little bit, pretty big favorite. But if you want to bet him via KO, TKO, or DQ, he's only -150 as opposed to -300 just to win the fight. And I kind of think that like this fight probably ends early, just because I think there's a lot of question marks about whether or not Bedoya's faced this level of competition. And, it's a big jump, right? To jump to the UFC. This is a huge fight card. This is obviously a huge fight. So I think it's fair to think like this guy might be wading out into the deep end of the pool, might not be quite ready to face someone of this caliber. So I've sort of been looking at Chaos Williams myself, via KO.
Okay, so we got some serious props here. A little Frivola first round, possibly some Chaos Williams, TKO -150 there. So we love to start the show out. First 10 minutes, we already got 3 picks on the board. My dad is not here right now, but he would be proud since he's always screaming, "Who's your pick?" Constantly throughout the show. So very good for us there. Before we get into our next fight, I want to thank one of our sponsors, Ignite 45. Listen, if you're a small business owner struggling to generate leads and revenue, then this message is for you. In today's economy, a winning digital strategy is a must. Without it, your business could fall behind and lose out. Many business owners struggle with outdated websites and no real presence on Google when people are searching for their services. But do not be discouraged, because Ignite 45 can fix that. They design great websites, turn visitors into paying customers, and create SEO strategies that rank your business on top of search results. Ignite 45 is also the first digital agency dedicated to helping your business reach millions on your social media platform of your choice. If you're ready to see real results and work with a digital partner that shares your values, then give them a call today at 720-740-1776. That's 720-740-1776. Or go to www.ignite45.com/Godzilla. You can use the promo Godzilla to save $100 on your digital needs. We love Ignacio and everything that he's done for us at Ignite 45. So let's move now to one of the main card fights. And Patrick, I'm going to need your help here with the name. So we're going to start with Jessica Andrade, which I can do, versus Jan, and I can't do the last name.
Just keep it at Jan.
We'll keep it at Jan.
It'll be much
There we
easier
go.
for you.
Yeah.
And everyone
Let's keep it at
involved.
Jan. Andrade versus Jan. So
Before we
start
get to
there.
this fight, I want to add on to what Nate was saying about
Sure.
his fight. This is his first big fight in the UFC. There is such thing as octagon shock. And it's not just being in a UFC octagon. You can be in an arena full of 20,000 people. That's one thing. These types of fights are major productions. For a week in advance, you're there doing press conferences, training sessions. Everybody's watching you, and it can have an effect on people. That's also something that you got to take into consideration for a first fight. Generally, the first fight for everybody in the UFC is to see how they're going to act, if they can handle the pressure, and if they're going to actually keep them on board. So that's something to also keep in mind.
Right. I mean, it's a huge challenge just controlling your adrenaline in that moment, right? Just like being able to like just have enough to get through the fight and not just have it all just dump out in the first 45 seconds.
It's let me tell you, it's something. It's the fight is more against yourself than anyone else just getting to the cage. Once you're in the cage, you're going to be okay. The problem is how much adrenaline wiped you, or how much adrenaline is pumping through your body, wiping you out before you walk into the cage, because you can very easily turn into a 30-second Superman. The moment once you get in that cage, and 30 seconds later, you're dead as disco. Seriously, because you are worn out from everything that's happened in the prior week. You know, personally, I wish there would be none of that kind of stuff, but you got to do it because it's a production. I'd rather just go in a cage and bang. And when I was fighting Nate, and toward the end of my career, when I was at the elite level and I was fighting for world championships or main event fights, I wouldn't do main event fights. It was always in my contract that I was before the break would happen. I did not want to wait all night to get into a fight. I wanted to fight immediately. And if I could have fought the first fight, I would have, but they would have never let me do it.
That's interesting.
It's
So,
just
yeah.
keep in mind.
I get the sense, Patrick, that if you were in the UFC right now and fighting at UFC 288, you'd basically be sprinting to the octagon and
But
telling the
pretty much, I'm going to tell you something about every single one of those people that are there. They want to fight.
yeah.
Everybody is, they're not there to knit. They're not collecting stamps. They're there to bang. And if you're not, you're in the wrong freaking place.
The adrenaline angle is sort of funny too, because sometimes when you watch some of these undercard fights, like there's not a lot of people in the arena. Sometimes there is, it starts to fill up, but the really early undercard fights, I mean, it feels kind of empty. However, I mean, it's on ESPN a lot of times, on ESPN Plus. It's streamed, millions of places. It's going to be on YouTube forever. And I got to imagine that if I'm a fighter in my first fight, that's all going through my head as I'm making that walk. And you can read their body language a lot. And even from a betting perspective, if you're into live betting, I mean, there are instances where you can read someone's body language and see if they're ready for the fight just as they're walking to the octagon or as soon as they get into the octagon. Now, if it were me, I'm not a fighter, but if it were me, I would puke immediately. I think I would get out there and step in the octagon and then throw up everywhere and be disqualified. So I don't see how these guys do it. But that is kind of an interesting angle, because on those undercard fights, a lot of times you'll be like, it's like nobody really in the building yet. But the adrenaline's just got to be incredible, so hard to adjust and make last for 3 rounds if it's the first time you've ever done it. I'm sure that's all entirely different skill, just like if you were playing basketball for the first time ever.
Well, also,
you'd feel
Jack,
the same.
also, Jack, when you and if you've never done this before, you have no idea there's anybody there the moment you step into the cage, and you don't know there's anybody there until the fight's over. Because the moment that cage door closes, it's on. I have never ever I don't remember any crowd reaction ever in any fight I've ever been in the moment I got in the cage. So it's just I think the production is a lot more of a nightmare than the actual fight is.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's move then to Andrade versus Jan. And Patrick, we'll start with you here, then we'll go to Trent for this fight. And I love watching Jessica Andrade fight. That's one of the reasons that I put this on our slate today, our show sheet. What do you see here in this fight?
Well, let's compare this fight to the last fight. She's not taking this on short notice. She's going to be ready. You're going to get what you get with Andrade. She's good standing up, good takedowns, good ground game. She's very, very aggressive. She's a Tasmanian devil. She's going to keep coming forward. Jan is an excellent basic striker. That's not to take anything away from Jan. She can throw some flash in there once in a while, but generally she hits really hard, follows up with leg kicks, and her takedown defense is really good. Now, not just necessarily takedown defense, but getting up. And this is something that a lot of people don't understand, that if you don't train to constantly stand up after you're taken down or from the ground, you're not going to do it. And you sort of then get into this ground game submission thing, which sort of is, it's not going to be beneficial to Jan. She hits hard, she defends takedowns very well, and she gets up and she starts hitting again. If this is the Andrade that we're used to, I think she might be able to wear Jan down. She's going to be coming right into her guns the whole time, and Jan will stand there and drop bombs. She has no problem doing it. And if you really watch her stand up after every exchange, she leaves with a leg kick, but to her detriment, she drops her hands, which is going to be a big problem because Andrade is a great counter striker, and she uses her strikes to set up her takedowns, and she does not stop coming forward. So that's a lot of ands. I know that, but that's just what she does.
Trent, what do you see in the Andrade Jan fight?
So Jan in her last fight with Mackenzie Dern was taken down twice, I think, and was controlled for the whole final round. But she still got the decision victory because she's slick with her hands. She throws great combinations. She's always touching you. But I think the thing that Andrade can take from Jan's last fight is that she was taken down and controlled on the ground. And if Andrade is able to mix things up like she usually does, she should be able to wear her down, like Patrick was saying. She needs to get her to the ground at least once or twice in this fight, though, to come away with the victory, in my opinion.
Patrick, do you expect Andrade to get her to the ground early, or is this one of those where she kind of waits for her opportunity in the second round or something?
It depends how much damage she wants to take. Because, it's not like Jan is just going to go down to the ground. She's expecting to get taken down. She's expecting to throw when Andrade is coming in. And I agree with Trent. If she does get her down to the ground, she's going to have to break down her hips and keep her there for a while first. Wear her out a little bit, because Jan is going to keep trying to get up, and a tactic you can use is allow her to keep getting really close to getting up and dragging her right back down again. So I agree with Trent completely. I don't know if you really want to go face first into Jan's fists. And what I was touching on before is it's not just the fists, but it's touching you with those leg kicks on the way out, and they have a cumulative effect. And the more leg kicks that she lands on the way out when she's sticking and moving, the worse it's going to be for Andrade to try to take her down, because when those legs go, they're gone. They're not coming back. So just keep that in.
So, Jan she's only lost 3 fights. She got 1 no contest. She got 3 inches on Andrade, but that doesn't ever seem to stop Andrade. I mean, Andrade is 5'1", she's just kind of small. The reach is about the same. Jan 63 inches, Andrade 62. So it'll be interesting to see Andrade's chin, if she can continue to take those strikes from Jan, or if she starts to get impatient and get her on the ground because she's taking too many on the chin. Nate, what do you see here from a betting perspective?
From a betting perspective, Andrade is minus 170 and Jan's plus 145. My sort of inclination from a betting perspective is that I kind of like Jan as an underdog, just because it seems like Andrade, we've seen it before, like gets a little bit reckless, especially when she just stands there and bangs, and Jan feels like someone who could put her down, especially with just this like boxing, like the guys have been talking about. So I think there may be some value in the underdog. I feel like every time that we've done an Andrade preview, this is like the second one or third one, I feel like I'm always like anti-Andrade, and I still am. I think that Jan just has a little bit more. I don't know. It just feels like the boxing is going to make it tough for Andrade to like get in and close, because she's so technically sound. I like the reach advantage that Jan has, even though it's small. And you always worry, like I worry that like Andrade is just moving in weight too much. Now she's moving down in weight from her last fight. I don't know. There just seems like a lot of question marks there, and I feel like sometimes we're just betting Andrade based on sort of past performance rather than like where she's at right now.
From a betting perspective, I hate taking fighters who are moving up and down in weight all the time. I mean, and that's really only anecdotal. I don't have like numbers to back up like, oh, when someone drops weight, they're like they never win or whatever. It just makes me nervous when they're going up and down in weight. Yeah, Patrick.
Weight cuts are miserable. I've been cutting weight since I was 11 years old, and I can tell you that when you're bobbing up and down like that, your body is going through massive changes, and it's not always for the best. For example, when I won the world championship for World Extreme Fighting, the guy that I was supposed to fight bailed, didn't want to fight. So they brought in a replacement who usually fought at 205 at 170. He was bouncing up and down like the Energizer Bunny, ready to rock and roll. The day before, he looked like death and dehydrated. My game plan was just wear him down the first period and then let him just go nuts on me in the second. Third round, he was dead. Couldn't move, couldn't even defend himself, couldn't breathe. And I'm telling you what happens with these weight cuts. You're absolutely right, Jack. It's not that you need anecdotal evidence. If you've ever been weight cutting, you've ever seen it, you've ever done it. Dehydration is one of the most horrible things you can do to yourself. It saps the life out of you. So going up and down like that is absolutely not healthy. You're completely right.
Yeah. And I mean, I just watching it now, I've been wrong. I mean, there's been times where I thought they look horrible. Then they go out and they bang and they win. These guys are professional fighters. They do this all the time. But just in general, it makes me nervous when a fighter is bouncing up and down, especially when they're cutting weight to make a fight with somebody who's not cutting weight, who's 16-3. Jan's only lost 3 fights in her UFC career. So I think there's a lot there in the underdog. So I kind of like Jan. Nate likes Jan. Patrick, and Trent, who do you like?
Trent.
I'd have to go with Andrade. I think strawweights are natural weight class, and she's not really she's gonna be shorter, but she doesn't really have a reach disadvantage against Jan. So I think she can get it done on the feet too.
Okay, Patrick.
I'm going to agree with Trent if she can stay out of those looping standing exchanges, because there's one thing to be said for people who can punch straight like Jan. They're devastating, especially against looping, more aggressive type strikers.
Okay, so a little bit of a disagreement here. We'll see. I do love it. I hope Andrade wins. I like the plus money a little bit, but I love watching Andrade. I'm gonna be excited for this fight. She's just a lot of fun to watch fight, and she's a really good fighter. So let's move now to Bilal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns. Muhammad 22-3, Burns 22-5, both about the same age. And about the same height. Burns is 5'8", Muhammad's 5'9". Reach advantage is Muhammad just an inch, 72 inches, to Burns is 71. So Patrick, set us up here, Muhammad versus Burns.
Well, Bilal Muhammad is taking this on short notice. Generally, he's a cardio machine, but just like anything else, you've got to train your cardio for it to be for it to be on point. Guys just don't train 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at their red line and they're ready to fight. It doesn't work that way. So that could be somewhat of a question. Yeah, does the guy train? Of course he does. He's a professional fighter, but there's levels of training. Are you training at 50% because you don't have a fight and you're just doing maintenance, or are you in fight prep? I don't know if he's really had the time to be in optimal condition. So that's going to be a question. Apparently everyone who will try to pick this fight says Bilal's got great stand-up. I don't think he's got great stand-up. I think he hits with pillows on his hands. I think he uses his hands to set up his takedowns, which his wrestling is on point. It's great. His takedowns are phenomenal. He's got great timing. He's finished several of his fights, rear naked chokes, getting on guys' backs. I don't think he's going to do that to Gilbert Burns. Burns, on the other hand, is a really good striker, really good wrestling, phenomenal ground game. They both want to go to the ground. So Bilal's going to want to take it there. Burns ain't going to mind going there. Do I expect a stand-up banging brawl? No, but I think if Burns wants to win faster, he'll keep it standing and he'll throw bombs. If not, I'm going to take Burns. Probably decision. I just think his ground game is a little bit better outside of the wrestling. And he's not really deficient in the wrestling department. I'm going to go with Burns on this.
Trent, do you share Patrick's trepidation for Muhammad's striking ability?
Yeah, he definitely isn't the best striker around, but if he can threaten takedowns, that makes him a much better striker because it gives Gilbert Burns more to think about. But I think Gilbert's going to welcome takedowns for the most part because he's such a world-class jiu-jitsu practitioner. But the one thing that's interesting about this fight is that it is a 5-round fight for the #1 contender spot. So the winner will get to take on the winner of Colby Covington, Leon Edwards. And I think Bilal asked for it to be a 5-round fight, which typically means that he thinks he has the advantage in the championship rounds. I mean,
Go ahead.
It's definitely a close fight, though. It's a hard one to pick for sure.
I love these 5-round fights with two guys who like to get on the mat. Because one, they're difficult to handicap. They're really difficult. Like, as just a casual viewer who, likes to get to the casino and put some money on these guys, it's so hard to predict when you got two guys who like to wrestle, like where that's going to go. Because as soon as these guys get on the mat, you have no idea what's going to happen. And one of them is going to do something spectacular when they're down there. Either they're going to get up in a really crazy way, or they're going to put someone in a chokehold or something at some point in a very unexpected way. So I love watching two of those guys get on the mat, especially in a 5-round fight, because it takes so much energy. Get down, get back up, get down, get back up, rounds over, get down, get back up. So the cardio really has to be on point. So I kind of share Patrick's maybe skepticism of Muhammad's cardio because he is on short notice. That is an interesting thing to watch out for. Yeah, Patrick, go ahead.
I want to commend Trent on his observation that when you have great takedown ability, it makes your stand-up look much better than it is because people are afraid. I'm going to tell you something right now. Gilbert Burns is not going to be afraid of that. So where you see most people sort of backing up, protecting themselves against the takedown, and they're allowing Bilal to land some strikes, I think Burns is just going to walk straight into it and throw bombs.
So, Nate, from a betting perspective, Muhammad Andrade, what do you think? I'm sorry, Muhammad Burns.
So from a betting perspective, Bilal Muhammad's a slight underdog at plus 115. Burns is a slight favorite at minus 135. Just sort of synthesizing what these guys have been saying and sort of looking at the numbers myself, it feels so coin flippy to me in a lot of ways. And the odds sort of reflect that. But it's like, Muhammad throws a few more strikes per minute than Burns does. They're about as accurate. Burns maybe a little bit more accurate. It kind of goes back and forth. It looks pretty even. The only thing that's like there's a huge discrepancy is that Muhammad's takedown defense is like unbelievable compared to Burns. So in a match that feels so sort of equal, and that's sort of what I've been hearing from the guys is it sort of feels these grappling matches can be unpredictable. I think from a betting perspective, I'd be inclined to take the plus money with Muhammad. Just because there's so many unknowns, I think I'd rather get plus money than lay the juice with Burns, particularly in the 5-round fight, because like Trent was saying, it sounds like Muhammad wanted this fight to go longer, to use this cardio advantage. So obviously he must be ready if he's willing to step in for the 5.
Nate's just an underdog machine right now.
Yeah,
taking the plus money. What that means is Nate has been losing all week. That's what I know.
Or he's doing it to spite your father.
Yeah, right. No, somebody has to pick underdogs around here.
He picked 2 dogs. Well, we don't want to talk too much until he gets on to defend himself, but he picked 2 dogs yesterday after just getting absolutely napalmed for 4 days of picking favorites, and he was up $900 and that it was totally erased with his just disaster Wednesday through Friday of all these favorites. But we'll talk about that in a little bit when he gets on. Okay, so Nate likes the dog here. Trent, who do you like?
I agree with Nate. I like Bilal. I think he keeps getting disrespected and doubted. I think he's got the mindset to come in here and get the finish over Burns.
Okay, Patrick?
I'm going to go with Burns. I'm not a big fan of people taking fights on short notice. I got burned with Andrade once and I knew better. And just remember something that, Muhammad asked for this 5-round fight, but Burns accepted it. Okay, so just remember that too. So.
Yeah, Burns has been much more active than
exactly.
Muhammad. He's fought twice already this year. Burns has.
Okay, so a little bit of disagreement there. Should be an interesting fight. We're going to get to Sterling versus Cejudo, the main event, here in a minute. But first, we got to talk about Beard Vet coffee. I'm drinking some right now. Love Beard Vet coffee. Listen up, Patriots. Are you tired of drinking coffee from mega corporations that don't give a rip about you? Well, then you got to put down that cup of regret and grab yourself some Beard Vet coffee. This is darn good coffee from a company that is veteran founded, veteran focused, and beard operated. And let's be real, if you're not drinking Beard Vet coffee, you might as well be sipping on a cup of burnt soy and tears. So join the ranks of the unapologetic. Go to beardvet.com. That's beardvet.com and taste the freedom. We love Beard Vet. I know Sean has been on the show before. I love their coffee. I order all the time. I order it for other people. I pass it around at my work a lot. It is incredible coffee. If you are into good coffee, then you got to go to beardvet.com and check them out. Reasonably priced, incredible product there. They have terrific apparel too. Great shirts. I got one on right now. Terrific hats. So go to beardvet.com for all your coffee needs. All right. So we're talking main event here. I wanted to do 45 minutes because I wanted to leave us tons of time for Sterling versus Cejudo, and we got about 10 minutes. Sterling is 5'6", Cejudo much shorter at 5'3". Sterling has a huge reach advantage, 71 inches to Cejudo's 64. Trent, I'm going to start with you. If you could just set us up. We were talking a little bit before the show about some of the idiosyncrasies of how these two have come to this fight. So if you could just set us up here with where Sterling's at in his career versus Cejudo. Then we'll go to Patrick.
Aljamain Sterling has defended. Well, I guess he won the belt against Peter Yan by disqualification when he got kneed in the face while being grounded and couldn't continue. And then he won the rematch against Peter Yan by decision, and then fought TJ Dillashaw and beat him by knockout. And Cejudo is coming off a 3-year layoff, but prior to that 3-year layoff, he was defending the belt, defended against Dominic Cruz, and then retired after that fight. But he also has been training and coaching at the highest level since then, so I don't think he's going to have a whole lot of ring rust, given that he's a competitor. He's been competing at the highest level since he was a kid, so I don't think that's going to affect him much, the 3-year layoff.
Patrick, one thing I've learned from talking to you is I have totally discredited ring rust at all. It seems like every time we talk about ring rust, you're like, that's not a thing. These guys are fighting all the time. So any skepticism on Cejudo being out of the ring for 3 years, or is he just going to go in there and bang?
None. The way I look at it, I sort of look at it in a contrarian way, where people say Cejudo retired. No, I think he took 3 years off, because a guy's not going to retire at 32, 33 years old when he's in the money, getting main event points on payouts on every fight that he's in. I think he had enough. Okay. And it's to Trent's point. He's been wrestling since he was 11 years old at the absolute highest level. And before I go into Cejudo, and I don't want to sound like a Cejudo homer, but this story is Cejudo. Sterling is the champion. I'm going to give him that respect because he absolutely is. End of story. Cejudo, on the other hand, is the youngest American to ever win an Olympic gold medal. That means you're wrestling the best of the best of the best, and you beat the best. End of story. That's how this works. To Trent's point, he's been training monsters for 3 years. He trains with monsters. He is a monster. My biggest question about Cejudo is this, and I know I keep saying things of this nature, but unless you've done it, you don't know. Is he going to be in coach mode? That's a problem, because I can tell you, and I'm going to go back to that WEF World Championship fight that I was in. I was in coach mode because I was training my guys, getting ready for a fight. They were getting ready. They were on the undercard. I was literally having an argument with the referee, taunting my opponent and hitting him simultaneously throughout the whole fight. If I would have just focused on ripping this guy's head off, it would have probably been over in the first round. That's what happens. I am absolutely concerned about him being in coach mode. Now, just knowing his pedigree, he's better at everything than Sterling is. So, for example, Sterling is a phenomenal scrambler, meaning he can get in and out of situations as well as anybody in the history of the UFC. Henry Cejudo is an Olympic gold medalist. That's what that tells you about scrambling. He's better at everything than Cejudo, in my opinion. I'm going Cejudo all the way. I can't imagine just the surroundings that he is in, that he is not going at it constantly and completely ready for this fight.
Talk about coach mode a little bit more. Like, is that a completely different mentality stepping into the ring after you've been coaching for so long?
It's an absolute, it's a nightmare. Generally, when I would fight, and just for whatever reason, fighting for the world championship this time was a freaking outlier. You don't want to coach for your entire prep for that fight, because you want to have absolutely no remorse for anybody you're with. You need to beat them up. You need to hurt them, and you need them to come after you and hurt you. Because if you're not doing this, you're not going to be ready for a guy who wants to rip your head off merely for money most of the time, which is an entirely different world to be in. When you're in coach mode, you're literally hitting somebody, telling them, dude, get your hands up. And it's a nightmare. And it's something you should never, ever be in. And honestly, I would not recommend it for any active fighter to coach anybody. Stay in fight mode. When you are retired and it's over, then go to coach mode, because it's very, very difficult to recover from.
Interesting. Nate, who do you like?
One more. I like the underdog. I like Sterling. It's a really close fight just from a betting perspective. It's minus 105 Sterling, minus 115 for Cejudo. So it's basically just right there. And yeah, I'll go underdog again. I mean, everyone loves Cejudo. It's again, I worry that we're falling in love with the idea of someone versus like what they've been. We just don't know. I mean, Cejudo's had 3 years off. Obviously, getting his body right probably, but I mean, Sterling's in his prime. He's a bigger fighter. He's been more active. He's riding an 8-fight win streak. Like, how can you just like write him off just because he's, facing a future Hall of Famer? I think that there's a lot of question marks attached to this future Hall of Famer in Cejudo. One of the greatest to ever do it. But I kind of think that Sterling is just a better sort of spot right now for a guy who's been really active. He's had some title defenses already. This is third time defending. It just seems like a better spot for Sterling to me. So I'll take the underdog again.
Any Trent or Patrick, is there any concern about the reach advantage? I mean, Sterling has a 7-inch reach advantage here.
Trent?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some concern. Because Sterling's not really, he's never been known for his power, but he's a sniper on the feet. I mean, when he hits you where he wants to hit you, and he can do that at range against Cejudo. The thing I'm looking for is Cejudo going to implement kicks and knees to negate that distance, which I think he will, because he's a student of the game. He likes, if you watch his YouTube, he likes to break down fights. He's always watching fights, reacting to them. I think he's going to come in here with a good game plan to beat Sterling.
I think that Cejudo trains with John Jones, which is a much bigger, better version than Sterling. He trains John Jones. He's not just going to run face first into his knees trying to get a takedown. I think his striking to takedown ability is pretty fantastic. I know I sound like a Cejudo homer. I'm not. Personally, I don't care who wins a fight. It doesn't mean anything to me. I just think he's better at everything than Sterling is. And again, what I was saying before was, when you're surrounded by monsters and you're training with monsters, you are a monster. It's just the way it works. The level is brought up all the time. So that's what I'm basing my pick on. And absolutely, Nate is 100% correct. 3 years off is 3 years off. So it's absolutely a question mark, but I'm still going with Cejudo.
Okay, so Patrick likes Cejudo, Nate likes Sterling. Trent,
Yeah, I like Cejudo by knockout.
what's the prop there?
Plus 330 on DraftKings.
Ooh, all right.
All right, Cejudo by
Let's
knockout. There we
go.
go. That's the kind of money I'm looking for. Little plus money there. Yeah. So listen, I'm super excited for this fight. That's why I want to do 45 minutes. I mean, this is going to be just an incredible pay-per-view event. And what you need to do, everyone, is go to GodzillaWins.com, go to the MMA page, read Trent's write-up on the prop bets there. He always does a fantastic job with some of those main event prop bets. Also read Manpreet Joss's main event prediction and some money line stuff there. We have a lot of MMA content. I love that we always have just a ton of UFC content. And to be honest with you, in a couple months, I'm thinking about expanding some of that. Maybe we'll talk a little Bellator. Who knows? I just love doing the fight stuff. It's so much fun. So go to GodzillaWins.com and get all of your fight coverage there. We're going to switch in a minute to a little NHL playoffs. Before we do that, Patrick, tell us about targettrading.co and the wins for this week.
Targettrading.co, still waiting for the commercial to lose all your money betting on the weekend and make it during the week so you can lose it on the weekend. This week we were 62 wins, 16 losses, 4 break even. So not a bad week. If you'd like a chance at becoming your own boss, giving the finger to the man, not reporting to anybody else, Go to targettrading.co, 888-203-3731. Give us an opportunity to help you change your life.
Financial freedom in the middle of a recession, I think.
Yes.
As we start hurtling towards another economic recession, it's always good to
We're
know
in it,
how-
Jack.
Yeah. Well, out here in Mississippi, we don't feel the ebbs and flows of the economy so much. It's always we've been stuck economically in the agricultural economy for a very long time. So sometimes we feel it last because we never got out of the first one. Nate can attest to that out there in Nevada. A lot of times it doesn't feel like a recovery, although boom and bust out there, sometimes they
Big time
ride
boom
that.
and bust. We can ride
Yeah.
the wave out here.
Yeah, Nevada can really ride that wave. That's that gold miner mentality. Economy's good, build some houses. Economy's bad,
Build some
foreclose.
houses.
Abandon all these houses.
Move. So you want to go to targettrading.co to unlock your financial freedom. All right, we are excited to be joined with America's Sherriff David Clarke. We're going to talk some NBA in a little bit, and senior Godzilla Wins contributor on fire with his NHL and MLB picks, Dan Angell. Dan, I want to talk NHL for a little bit.
Sure.
Let's talk about your picks here. Who do you see for the weekend?
All right. Well, this Saturday game between Edmonton and Vegas, I think the over has got to be the play here. I mean, Leon Draisaitl was just outstanding in game one, scoring 4 goals, and Vegas matched it and exceeded it with 6 goals at the other end. Edmonton has traditionally been a team that does not start series well. The Oilers have not won a game one in a series since 2017. And almost every time after they lose game one, they come out and they play an offensive showcase the next game. So I think this is going to be a similar situation. I'm not really sure which team is going to win this one because it depends a lot on whether Connor McDavid is going to join the scoring party. So far in these playoffs, Draisaitl's been doing most of the scoring for the Oilers. McDavid's just been doing the setup. He's got 3 goals and 9 assists so far, which, I mean, 12 points is something you'll take all day. But a scorer like McDavid, you need more of actually putting the biscuit in the basket there, and that's been all Draisaitl so far. So I'm not confident enough to take a side either way, but I definitely like the over in that matchup. The next one I'm looking at is New Jersey's been here before going down 0-2. They did it last round against the Rangers, but I'm thinking this might be a different situation with Carolina because the Hurricanes just look locked in, and New Jersey's power play struggles against Carolina have not changed since the regular season. The Devils are 0-for-5 on the power play in this series. They went 0-for-13 with man advantage against Carolina during the regular season, and the same goaltending issues that happened in the Rangers series are popping up again. New Jersey's had to switch goaltenders in both of the games in Raleigh. Neither game was particularly close. Carolina just looks like the best team left in the East with Boston now out of it. And I think the Hurricanes know it and they're playing like it. So I think you're going to get Carolina at plus money in this game going to Newark. So this is the perfect time to jump on the Hurricanes to try and get a chokehold in this series. And then I'm also looking at Florida to do the same thing against Toronto. The Maple Leafs, sometimes when you get through a huge hurdle like Toronto did in finally getting past the first round, but not only that, but also beating Tampa Bay, who has just dominated the East for the last 3 seasons, it takes so much out of you mentally that you just don't have anything left in the tank for the next series. And that's exactly what it's looking like so far. Florida won both games in Toronto. The series now shifts to Sunrise, and I think the Panthers are playing with house money here. They're playing with confidence, and they're a lot better than their seed indicates. I think they might finish this off in 4.
Oh wow, that's a pretty ballsy pick there. Nate might be able to find some futures on that to finish that series in 4. So let's talk a little bit about the Kraken Stars. This is to me a really interesting series, Dan, because on the one hand, they played each other a lot, in the past.
Yep.
Like last third of the season, I guess they've met up 10 times, maybe more than that. And so I think the general consensus is that the series should go, 6 or 7, just because they've seen each other so much. But, I watched the Stars play the game. The first two were in Dallas. I watched this game too, and man, they just look so much better. I don't know if the Kraken just came out and just couldn't execute their game plan in game two. They couldn't get any shots on goal, and they lost 4-2. It's not like they got crushed, but did the Kraken have a shot here, or are the Stars just that much better, or do I not know what I'm looking at?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing in that game too was Dallas just kept winning face-off after face-off. I mean, I think on the Stars face-off percentage win was 69% in that game. And when you're starting almost every possession with the puck on your side, you're going to get good scoring opportunities. And that's what happened. Dallas has just dominated in the face-off circle. And I think the Stars might be starting to adjust to the way Seattle plays. The Kraken kind of remind me a bit of the Anaheim Ducks in the 2000s, where they just hit, and hit some more. I mean, I think they've averaged around 45 hits per game in the first 2 games of this series. So at this point, because they've seen each other so often, Dallas knows what to expect. And when you're able to handle that level of hitting, it becomes far less effective. The Stars have set themselves up well. They're getting good opportunities at the net. And I don't know if the Kraken really have a plan B, because this is a second-year team. They don't have this kind of playoff experience. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of adjustments they make when they go to Seattle to at least get this thing to 2-2. But yeah, based off game 2, it's looking like this might be where the run ends for the Kraken.
Yeah. So one of the big things with that matchup is, like you said, those faceoffs. So the Stars, I think, are the best team when it comes to faceoffs, at winning those faceoffs in the NHL. The Kraken are the worst of the teams left. They're not the worst in hockey, but they're worst in the playoff teams. So if you just keep losing faceoff after faceoff, it just becomes so much more difficult to execute a game plan and get shots on goal. And that seemed to be one of the issues in Dallas in game 2, was that they just, they can't win a faceoff. They can't control the puck. They can't get shots on goal. They had like 5 shots on goal in the first period and something like 3 or something in the second. And they still managed to score. It's not like they can't score, but I'm a little worried about them. I've been watching a lot of them. I don't know why. I just, for whatever reason, kind of like watching the Kraken this year. Maybe it's the name, to be honest with you. I'm not really like a hockey guy, but
yeah.
But yeah. And I mean, the energy was live in Dallas. It's always live. Playoff hockey everywhere is kind of crazy. But I don't know. Do you think that Seattle, that is, can take at least one in Seattle when they go back?
I think they've definitely got a chance. I mean, it's going to depend on the goaltending. Grubauer has got to stand up to Dallas's attack better than he did in the first 2 games. And the Kraken are kind of like the Panthers a little bit, in that they are also playing with house money. Very few people thought they would get past the Avalanche in that series, and they managed to overcome a 2-1 deficit there. So this team can certainly do it, but they've got to find a way to win some faceoffs and stop Pavelski if they're going to get through this series.
Yeah, I think Dallas is a better team. I mean,
I think
look so much better. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean that's to be expected for a second-year team. I mean, it's pretty rare for a team to come together this fast. I mean, everybody's going to compare them to Vegas, unfortunately, just because the Golden Knights caught lightning in a bottle. But most expansion teams do struggle for a couple seasons. Seattle moved up the timetable quite nicely. So I don't know. I mean, I do think that these are going to be fairly close games, because most of the games that these teams played have been 1-goal affairs. But I do think Dallas is going to come out ahead more often than not.
I'm going to keep hammering the puck line, I think. I mean, I tailed your I tailed your Kraken pick and took the
Yeah.
plus 1.5, but I wasn't like upset at the loss. I don't think, because they didn't have a problem scoring. They just couldn't play any defense. I mean,
Right.
one more goal and you win that. I'm definitely not taking them in any of these money lines. I mean, that's just like you said, they're probably going to win another game or two. I just don't know what game that's going to be.
Yeah,
And
it feels like a 4-2 series. You're right.
yeah, it does. And maybe they take game 3, but I don't know. And then you get in the playoffs, it's a lot, and we'll talk about the NBA here in a minute. And it's so hard to do the money line thing because the number, it changes, it swings, one to the other. So like in these playoff games, these long series, if Dallas wins game 2, then you're not going to get great plus money for Seattle in game 3, because everybody thinks in the playoffs that if you lose one, then you're going to win the next. So it can be kind of difficult to find that. Same thing in the NBA. I hate betting the NBA in the playoffs for that reason, because you got, okay, so the Lakers win game 1. Now you can't bet them game 2, or you can't bet the Warriors game 2, and the Warriors end up winning game 2, because the money line, just the odds are so difficult. But we're going to talk NBA here in a minute, and then we've got some breaking news for the Derby as well. Before we do that, though, I want to thank one of our partners here, Birch Gold. Listen, my dad talks about this on the radio all the time. Most of our listeners know what my family went through during the recession in 2008. And Birch Gold has really been a savior for the family here, because inflation, as we all know, has consequences. And as the Fed raises interest rates to combat out of control government spending, long-term bonds have diminished in value, crippling banks. Depositors are holding their breath, and investors are bailing on bank stocks. Diversification has never been more important. The recent surge in gold prices is directly tied to the extreme market volatility right now. That's why gold has always been a great hedge against the stock market and against inflation. So now would be a great time to diversify. Birch Gold makes it easy to convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in precious metals. Here's what you got to do. Text Godzilla, that's Godzilla, to 989898. That's Godzilla to 989898 to get a free info kit on gold. They'll help you convert your existing IRA or 401k that's tied to a volatile market into an IRA in physical precious metals, gold and silver. Text Godzilla to 989898 to claim your free info kit on gold today with an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers, and countless 5-star reviews. Birch Gold, who you can trust to protect your future. That's Godzilla to 989898. My father likes to talk about hedging against the stock market all the time. He is not a stock market guy. One thing about my father, if you've ever met him, not a big stock market guy, unless we're talking futures with target trading. Otherwise, though, big precious metals guy, John Fredericks. So we're going to talk a little bit NBA here, I believe, and then we'll move right along to our Kentucky Derby picks, and we'll talk about some of the horses. A big breaking news that we will get to in about 10 minutes. But Sherriff Clarke, I want to start with you here. Your beloved Boston Celtics, a couple days ago, they dropped that first game, I believe, and you were blowing us up about how you hate the Celtics. And now they're up 2-1, I think. Back at it. Embiid has been injured. I don't know if he played in game 3 or not. You can fill us in there. But are you still nervous about the Celtics? Do you think they can take this thing all the way like they almost did last year, or not impressed?
Well, let's sort that out a little bit. First of all, I don't hate the Celtics after they lose. It's so frustrating to watch this team, as talented as they are. Just sometimes they come out and they play with no interest, like they played in game 1, like they played in Atlanta. The first game they went back after going up 2-0, and they could just kind of like be disinterested. And it's really frustrating to watch a team that's talented come out and not bring their A game, especially in the playoffs, but not bring their A game every night. So yeah, they lost game 1, won game 2 pretty handily. The game last night was pretty much in hand most of the game, wire to wire, just about. with Boston leading. But then again, my guy, Jason Tatum, he was kind of, for most of the game, he was kind of missing in action. If you look at his line after the game, it looks pretty impressive, right? But the fact is, he didn't come alive until the last couple minutes of the fourth quarter when it got within 3 points, I think. Philly got within 3. Tatum hit a couple of big 3-pointers. He hit a couple free throws, and he had a steal all in like the last 3 or 4 minutes. But he doesn't play like that all game. Embiid played last night, and is kind of the usual numbers that he gets. I thought it was a mistake that they presented his MVP trophy last night on the court. I mean, I understand the significance of it. You want to do it in front of the fans, but I thought it was a distraction more than anything else when you do that sort of thing. It's kind of like when teams win the Super Bowl the following season on their first game, they get their rings. A lot of those teams end up losing that night at home because it's a distraction. But anyway, the rest of the NBA, I was glad to see the Suns win. I'm a big KD fan, Kevin Durant. I still, that might be the only game they're going to win this series. Denver's that good. It's like nobody knows that the Knicks and the Heat are playing. Maybe Patrick can fill us in on how the town is doing. Its first game at home now in the second round here. You probably will get tied up in traffic all day and be partying all day. But other than that, I don't know. It's anybody could win this thing, I think, including the Sixers and the Celtics. Obviously, Denver's a good team, so that's kind of how I'm seeing things right now. The games have been great, though. It's been an exciting NBA. I don't watch the NBA during the regular season. I guess the reason I don't is because half these players don't really have an interest in it, with the load management. So I think, why should I waste my time?
Sherriff Clarke does his own load management, saves all his viewership for the playoffs. I want to talk about Tatum a little bit. Like, what's up with his play? Like, so last year he disappeared basically in the championship, and everybody sort of chalked it up to like, okay, well, he's young, he's feeling the pressure of leading a young team to getting them all the way. He'll be better next year in the playoffs. And you're right. I mean, 27 points is not nothing, but he didn't really seem to make an impact until the end of the game. Now, he's the best player on the Celtics, so you need him at the end of the game. That's when he should be making an impact. But if you watch some of these other guys, LeBron, Steph, KD, they make an impact throughout the game. I mean, Anthony Davis, when he's locked in, you feel his presence from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. Same thing with Embiid. Now they're big guys, a little bit different. But what is it about Tatum, Sherriff Clarke, that, I mean, is this going to be his rap forever, or is he going to figure it out?
Well, this is who he is, because he's been in the league now like 5 or 6 years. Talented as hell, but he doesn't have a killer instinct. He doesn't have that Mamba mentality that Kobe Bryant had, or that killer instinct that Michael Jordan had, some of the great ones. They want to step on your throat, for heaven's sakes, and they want to keep you down. And Tatum, who claims that he models his game after Kobe Bryant, and Kobe Bryant was his idol growing up and going, his 1 year at Duke. He didn't play like Kobe. Kobe is not going to let you get up off the damn mat. So what I see, and I think I see the same thing in AD. He can disappear for entire games. Look at his game 1 versus game 2. But to go back to game 1 against the 76ers here with Tatum and the Celtics, got to the end of the game. It's tie score, and the Celtics had the ball. Tatum doesn't look for the ball. Tatum has to have an attitude, give me the ball, get out of the way. He doesn't. He didn't come to the ball. He didn't ask for the ball in a timeout. He doesn't go to the bench and say, no, draw up the play for me. You guys get in position for the rebound. I'm taking the shot. He passes the ball to Marcus Smart, for heaven's sakes. Now, you know, Jack, you mentioned, he's probably the best guy on the court. I don't know. I'm like a Jaylen Brown at this point, because Jaylen Brown brings it every night, plays hard all the time. He's not as big or as tall and long as Tatum is, but I don't know. Tatum just doesn't have a killer instinct.
So my thing with Brown always, and I think Brown does have a killer instinct, but he can't handle the basketball. It's always like a turnover machine. That's the one worry that you have with Jaylen Brown at the end of the game is you give him the ball and he dribbles into the paint, and then all of a sudden the other team has the ball. I can't stand. I mean, I'm not a Celtics fan. I would imagine if I was a Celtics fan, I'd be furious at Marcus Smart in the playoffs all the time. He gets in the playoffs, Smart does, and he thinks he's the guy. He wants the ball. Now that mentality is great, but he's not really a scorer. I can't stand watching him with all these guys around him who can really score the basketball. Some generational talents like Tatum and Brown, and then Smart's just over there taking shot after shot after shot. And I mean, I know people love his defense and everything else and his heart. But man, I mean, if it were me and I'm a Celtics fan, I'd be like, dude, just pass the ball every once in a while. In a close game, Marcus Smart is going to take a shot. And a lot of times it's not going to go in because he's just not that guy. Now I do want to talk a little bit about the Lakers and the Warriors. That's a huge series. I'm furious at the Lakers for bouncing the Grizzlies, although I knew that was going to happen. That's why I didn't bring it up on the show at all. AD really made his presence felt in that game 7 in Memphis, or I think it was game 6 actually. So Nate, you have a little news out there, West Coast. Who do you like in this Warriors Lakers series?
You know, this feels like a series where it's just gonna, like, we talk about this in the playoffs sometimes, and I guess it's like worth mentioning, sort of like breaking down. It's like in the playoffs, especially in basketball, you get this kind of like, a lot of people are proponents of what they call like a zigzag theory for betting, which is essentially like you bet one team the first game and then you bet the next team. So like you bet the Lakers in game 1, take the Warriors in game 2, take the Lakers in game 3 kind of thing. And I saw a lot of smart people taking the Lakers in the first game, and then they knew that they would probably take their foot off the gas in game 2 against the Warriors, like just because it's like good enough to win, like to steal 1 at Golden State home, like at home, right? So from that perspective, like I like the Lakers here to come out a little bit more focused. It seemed pretty predictable that they would lose game 2, and they lost it in like pretty spectacular fashion. It was like, you know, they'd go out for the first quarter maybe and feel it out. And it looked like if it wasn't going their way, they were just going to pack it in. And that's kind of what they ended up doing. But, you know, great effort, obviously, in the first game. So I kind of like the Lakers to come back here and win again. But this feels like a series is just going to be 1 and then 1 and then 1 and then 1. And then finally we'll get to game 7, and then it'll be, you know, everyone's going after it.
Well, the reason that is, Nate, is because in a series, a 7-game series, you're playing the same team every night. So you know what their tendencies are. And what it comes down to is adjustments. And that's what you saw Golden State make after game 1. The Lakers came in, okay, rested, but they had a game plan. And Golden State coming off a 7-game series. And then they made adjustments for game 2. And that's more than anything why you didn't see the Lakers play the way they did.
Christine, I'm in.
Chair
goes. Chair
So,
goes.
you know, the same with the Celtics and the Sixers. You got to make adjustments. There are in-game adjustments, and then there are between-game adjustments. And that's when the coaching comes out. And the better coach is Steve Kerr. Not a big fan of the guy, but he's a hell of a coach. You know, they make those adjustments necessary to come out and play differently, not necessarily better, but differently that the team in the game before is not ready for. So now the Lakers have to make adjustments coming off of game 2, not because I don't think they played bad. They just weren't prepared for what the changes and adjustments that Golden State made.
And that's something that is a big difference between the NBA and the NHL, which is why this isn't a viable strategy in NHL games, because in the NHL, you make those adjustments on the fly, and the home coach gets to make their lineup changes after seeing what the visiting team puts out. Whereas the NBA, you can make changes pretty much throughout the game. So that in the score, there's also such a disparity in the scores. I mean, the NBA, we see 220, 230 points a night, whereas the NHL, one goal can completely change anything. So in the NBA, that's a very viable strategy to switch back and forth. The NHL, not so much.
Yeah, I hate the zigzag theory, but I understand it. I understand why in the NBA it's one of those things that people do all the time. I just hate it because it's like, even if it works, like, what's the point? Like, okay, sweet Warriors minus 210, terrific. Like, I won $19. Great. Like at that point, it's just like, oh, great, I was right. Like, whatever. So, I hate it, but man, it's so true. You saw it in the Celtics Sixers series after the Sixers blew them out in game 1, came back in game 2. You saw it in the Heat series. Heat came out in game 1, stole a game in New York. New York wins game 2. Now we're down in Miami. So it is something that, I mean, you can use that theory and you can win money. It's just everybody uses that theory. So you don't.
Yeah, it's like one of those old school things that everyone does, but it still kind of works.
Yeah, I mean, it works, but it's why I've been slowly kind of gravitating towards hockey lately, because I do feel like with that Kraken Star series talk about, like, Kraken going to get one. I just got to figure out which game it is. If I can figure that game out, you can win a little bit of money, because they're going to be plus money probably the whole series, since Dallas is so much better. But you got to go to Godzilla Wins to be able to read our picks and tail us in order to make a little money. Okay, so my father was here, then he dropped out. I knew at some point he'd come in and start talking in the background, and we'd hear a bunch of feedback. I knew that was going to happen. And so at some point,
And there was no way to bet that.
Yeah. Oh my God. If we could, that would, Dan, I would set that line at minus 800 of John Fredericks comes in the middle of a show and starts talking to someone else with a hot mic. That's like, I mean, that you can't win any money on that line. Because it's,
Just to be clear, you're telling me there are basketball games and hockey games in South Florida this week?
There are. And I was just about to do the temperature check. The Heat are, I mean, what an incredible story with that 8 seed. Everybody's got to be live. Let's do a little temperature check down there in South Florida. Everybody feeling the heat?
2 8 seeds.
I can tell you one thing, it's been phenomenal weather. There hasn't been a cloud in the sky 4 days. I've been at the pool. So that's all I know about what's going on here in South Florida, because I've heard nothing else.
I mean, it is incredible. Both those teams are an incredible story, and I can't believe the Heat stole that game in New York. Although that series, to be honest with you, whatever. Like, I mean, I don't really give New York a chance either. The Celtics have such a cakewalk into the championship. If they screw this up, then Sherriff, I would be furious. I mean, they could. You
Yeah, they could. They're capable.
This is such an easy walk right into the championship with the Western Conference, which is much more difficult to handicap. Okay,
Jack,
so
in all honesty, Sherriff Clarke is right, though, and this goes back to what we were talking about in the fights. When you got guys that just show up because they have absolutely no sense of urgency whatsoever, games can get away from you very, very quickly. And no matter how good you are, once that momentum shifts, it's almost impossible to get back.
It absolutely is. We need to save a little bit of time for the Derby. Anyone can hop in on this segment. Before we do that, though, we got to thank MyPillow for being a sponsor. One of the things I need everyone to do, go to mypillow.com and use the promo code FUN. That's promo code FUN. mypillow.com, promo code FUN. That promo code can get you up to 80% off on all their merchandise, whether it's the pillows, which are incredible, the slippers, which are also extremely comfortable, towels. Just go to mypillow.com, put in the promo code FUN, and you get just incredibly deep discounts. That's an incredible promo code. Any discount that you're looking for, use that promo code FUN at mypillow.com for all your pillow needs. Okay, let's talk a little Kentucky Derby here. We got about 15 minutes. I know my dad's trying to get on to talk about that. He's been preparing all week. That he's the horse racing guy. Used to do it for a living. So if he gets on, we'll throw it to him. But we want to talk some breaking news. Then we're also going to talk about some of the ways the horses have been treated lately. Nate, tell us the breaking news here, and then we'll get to some of the horse treatment.
Yeah, so the breaking news is that Forte scratched this morning. It was a veterinary scratch. veterinarian came in and said that he didn't seem right. There had been some whisperings all week that he had taken kind of a funny step when he was working out. And it seemed like the trainers were trying to sort of keep it under wraps, but it was sort of the not very well concealed rumor that there was something wrong with the horse. And then the veterinarian came in today and did scratch him. So that makes 5 scratches for this race. So it's down to an 18 horse field to start off. And obviously huge betting implications because Forte was the favorite at 4-1. They still haven't adjusted the odds board yet, but so he's still on there. So they haven't adjusted everything, but it's looking like Tappet, Trice, and Angel of Empire will move into the co-favorite spot, all things being equal, because they were the second choice at 6-1 for betting
And
purposes.
another trendy favorite was scratched, Practical Move for elevated heart rate a couple days ago. This has been a really, really interesting Derby to follow because of the scratches, the health issues. 2 horses have died, which is highly unusual. Horses do die, but at Churchill Downs, not at this frequency. Sherriff Clarke, I know you want to talk a little bit about that. You're a horse owner yourself.
Yeah, very fond of equines. I really am. And I love horse racing, by the way. I'm no fan of PETA, but I'll tell you what, I don't like when animals are mistreated. And the horse racing industry does have a problem. It's a drug problem. They're doping these horses up. There are fewer race horses now than there were in the past. And so these horses are being asked to run more frequently. And as a result, they have to be drugged up to keep from breaking down. I mean, you got 1,200-pound animals moving at lightning speed on legs that are like toothpicks, for heaven's sakes. And a lot of the injuries have to do with broken bones. And when a horse breaks a leg, you got to put it down. The other issue is some of the therapeutics they're using to help these, not really help these horses recover health-wise, but for the next race. They're drugs that affect their heart rate. So when you mention in one horse with an elevated heart rate, first thing that comes to mind. So you got one of the biggest sports horse racing spectacles of the year in Derby week, and it's a wash in horse deaths. Now you mentioned, there were 4 this week, just this week at Churchill Downs. But if you go back to 2018, 2019, 33 horses died at Santa Anita Park out in California. Things like just dropping over dead. That's not normal for a horse. Most of these are after the training, to go out for a day of training, to bring them back in and find a horse dead in the paddock or in the stall. So, horse racing, and it's fallen off with popularity. And the reason is because people are turned off by some of the stories they're hearing about how these horses are being treated. And like I said, I'm no patron of PETA, but for heaven's sakes, they got to do something to clean this sport up before it becomes extinct.
So a couple points to Sherriff Clarke's perspective here. They have been working to clean this up a little bit. In a couple years ago, there were something like 2 horse deaths per 1,000 racehorses in America. And what they did was they started an equine health database. So you can see the health of the different horses, the ones who have died, stuff like that. And what that has done, along with some better veterinary practices in the last year or so, is that has dropped to 1.25 horse deaths per 1,000 horses. Horses do die because of some of the what they call milkshakes, which is sodium bicarbonate, pumping the horses full of drugs, and then setting them out into the racing world. In Europe and in Asia, the horse death ratio is so much lower. They do not have this problem like we do in America. And to Sherriff Clarke's point, part of that is because we drug these horses in America more than they do out there. It's just a different perspective. It's a different practice. However, horse racing is also much more popular in America than it is in other countries. So what that means is there's just more races, which means there's going to be more horse deaths. So it's kind of a straw man argument to compare like Europe and Japan and their horse deaths to America. But in America, equines are just, it's so important to our culture and to our history as Americans. They helped us settle the country. And so when the Derby is in the spotlight and you see all these horse deaths, it is concerning. And it's something that the sport does need to continue to try to clean up. I'm glad to see Practical Move and Forte scratched for veterinary reasons. That's a good step. 20 years ago, they may not have scratched them. If my father was here, he would attest to that. He trained horses for that was his first career. And there's no one who loves horses more than him, but he's seen that too. He's seen horses die, his own horse. He's seen that happen before. It does happen, but one of the reasons that it happens is, like Sherriff Clarke saying, just drugging them up like that and trying to get them to race is a little irresponsible.
They need to. My recommendation to the industry, and I'm not a horse trainer, a racehorse trainer, I should say. I do own a horse, but one of the things that they ought to do is take a look at the Olympic model for discovering these drugs in these athletes. I think the Olympic model, it's very hard to inject your body as an Olympic athlete and get away with it with the testing they use, because I think horse racing industry is a little slow on banning certain masking agents. And that's one of the things that are being used more now, is once they ban a particular drug, somebody comes up with a masking agent. But even those masking agents don't seem to be able to get by the Olympic drug testing. And, I just think, you mentioned, Jack, and I know what you mean. I'm not saying this disparagingly, horses die. Well, people die too. But if people in the track and field world were dropping like these horses are, I bet the world, but especially in the United States, we'd have a different attitude about it. Look at that female track and field star, 32 years old, that dropped dead the other day. We're all in shock over something like that. But yet when a horse dies, we just kind of like get the shoulder shrug and we move on.
Sometimes. I mean, the one thing I will say is these horses are $1 million assets, and in some ways they are really well taken care of. And they're treated better than most horses because they are so expensive. I mean, these horses make these guys tons of money if they can win. But it does need to be it needs to be cleaned up a little bit. But this happens every year, and we have this conversation every year as well. I know Nate and I have talked about that before. It's just something that when you get to the Derby, it's just there. There's John for the last 6-7 minutes of the show. Maybe we'll get to him in a minute.
But to just speak on that a little bit further, I mean, it is something that they're working on, right? I mean, Bob Baffert's a legendary trainer, always perennially has horses in the Triple Crown races, but he's a cheater, and he's serving a suspension right now.
Hey guys,
he's banned.
You're gonna have to let me get in, because my this internet, I'm at some high school in rural Virginia, and this thing is it goes in and out. So if you want my pick, I got to do it now before my screen goes black.
Let's go.
Okay, go ahead.
Listen, this thing is wide open. Okay, let me tell you the problem with the 3-1 favorite Forte.
Forte's scratched.
He got scratched. Okay, when was that? Like
20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago.
Okay, that puts me 100% in the corner of Angel of Empire, right? He didn't look like a contender at the beginning of this season. This horses move forward every single step of the way as a 3-year-old. He won the Arkansas Derby by 4.5 lengths. Let me tell you what I love about Angel of Derby, and I didn't like about Forte, who's going backwards. He races midfield, right? Midfield means he's not going to be last. He's not going to be a front runner. He's midfield, right? All he has to do is not get boxed in. He's got 2 moves. He's got the immediate move from mid-pack to get towards the top going into that turn. That thing is explosive for a 3-year-old, right? He's got that. Let me tell you the other thing he's got. He's got a stretch drive, because when he did the Arkansas Derby, he was about 7th or 8th. He blew to the top in the backstretch with that burst of speed, got ahead in front going to the stretch, and ran away by 5 lengths. So he's got a very late kick Here's the last thing I love about this colt, which I didn't like about Forte. He's got killer instinct. He went up by 2 mid-stretch and pulled ahead by 4.5. You can't teach a horse that. They either got that heart or they don't. And that's what he did. Here's a problem with number 2, Verified. He's never been asked for early speed, but the only way he can win this race is if he tries to go wire to wire. That's also why I don't like number 5, Tapit Tracy's going to need a perfect trip in this race. I love his heritage, but and he has problems getting out of the gate, so I'm not going to bet him. Okay, so I don't like Tapit Tracy, even though he's won 4 straight and he's likely now to go off the favorite. I don't like him, and Kings Barnes, nothing. So I like what did I say? I like Angel of Empire. Yeah, and I don't bet exactas. I'm betting Angel the Empire to win. I don't care what he goes off at. If he's fit, if you're watching this thing and he's 5th, 7th, 8th in that backstretch, and they pull him out of there, and you see him going to the top, he's gonna win this race.
That was the most feverish segment I've ever witnessed on the show. So I'm glad we got that in. Dad's just like screaming into the mic.
I'm really fired up about this. Now, I tell you the other one. A lot of people are betting this Japanese horse, Dermasologate. Okay.
I'm betting Dermasologate. Yeah.
You might as well take the money and piss it down the toilet, right? A UAE Derby winner has never placed in the money in 43 starts. He just flew to Chicago the end of March. They had to truck him to Churchill. No good. They're 0 for 43. Terrible bet. Waste of money.
Dad, just because your internet is not working well doesn't mean you have to, like, your audio is fine. You don't have to scream into the microphone.
I got all these people here.
Yeah. Well, we don't hear
All right,
them.
go ahead. I'm done.
Yeah.
What's the
thanks.
weather? What's the weather report today? What are the track conditions going to be?
Sunny and clear right now.
Okay.
Looks like the track is slated as fast right now on the last update from Churchill Downs. Looks like partly sunny, high near 80. So looks like fine weather.
So Nate, you like Dermasologate?
Yeah, I'm always falling in love with Japanese horses, though. I like the racing culture is so good, and they've had so many good horses lately that just haven't panned out very well in America until recently. But they've started performing really well in the Breeders' Cup, which is obviously a bigger, better horses than you'll find in the Derby. This is worldwide all best horses, and they've been getting better in Breeders' Cup races. So I feel like at some point there's going to be one that pops in the Derby. It just has to happen. Some of that's probably racing style. In Japan, they don't tend to race them very often as 2-year-olds, which is some of it. So they come here and they're not as experienced. It's there've only been 2 winners in the Kentucky Derby that haven't raced as 2-year-olds. One of them was Justify, won the Triple Crown. But it just doesn't happen very often. So, but I like Dermasologate here. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with him. I mean, the UAE Derby win was shocking. He won by 5.5 lengths.
He's not going to finish in the money, Nate. You're going to throw your money away.
I'll throw it away. I throw it away every year, John.
The problem with here's a problem. A lot of people like 2 fills.
It gave me to not throw my money away.
Here's a problem with 2 fills. Okay. He got squashed by 10 lengths by Forte. He's just not going to be able to compete. Now he's got the highest speed rate. He's going to get play, guys. He's going to get play because he's got the highest speed rating, but that speed rating was on synthetic turf. When he went to Turfway, and he got the speed rating at Turfway. Then he went to at Risen Star Stakes. He went off on synthetic turf, went on the dirt and got crushed by 10. Some horses, they don't take to the dirt, right? So he's got to figure this out. The summer synthetic. So I don't like him either. There's a lot here I don't like in this Derby, which normally for me isn't that happen. But you got Confidence Game, 10-week layoff. ran in the mud. Now, if you believe in arithmetic and history, okay, no horse has ever won the Kentucky Derby with more than a 7-week layoff. This horse has been off 10 weeks out. I throw him out. Okay. And here's the problem with the big gray Colt Tapit Trace. He breaks slowly, so I can't bet him, right? In a 19 horse field with chaos out of the gate, that is just a major problem. So basically, if you're betting Tapit as the favorite, and he doesn't get out fast, you're gone, because he's got to be able to get out and get out of that traffic from the position he's in, and that's another thing you can't teach. So I don't like him either. Kings Barnes, 3 starts, and he didn't race as a 2-year-old. You know how many horses have won the Derby that didn't race as a 2-year-old and only had 3 starts? You ready for the number? 0.
Put me
Let me say
down.
that again. 0.
Put me down for Kings Barnes. You jumped the gun a little bit there. I was gonna throw that out there. His last race, the Louisiana Derby, wire to wire win, brings a lot of speed to this track. That's why I asked what the track conditions are going to be like for this afternoon. Kings Barnes, the barn that he comes out of, has won the Derby 4 times, so he's got some good pedigree there.
Yo, I'm not even sure we're still on air, but I love the conversation here. It's way past time to go, but I mean, Dad, if you just want to keep talking till 10:30, I guess that's fine too. Before we go,
Yeah, you're on the radio station.
This is a lot more fun than War Room, isn't it?
yeah, well, it's
Talk
it
to
is.
Steve about that.
It's
Yeah.
Derby Day. Come on, man.
I mean, more people are going to be thinking about horses than anything else today.
Yeah, but
Tell-
I had
Yeah, tell Steve Bannon.
I got
that.
another 6 hours of politics here at this convention. So this is my little respite. But
Dan, do you have a? Hold on, Dad. Dan, do you have a pick?
I got to go with what John said, and back Angel of Empire. I mean, I think the track conditions favor a fast pace, and that should allow Angel of Empire to unleash that closing speed at the end. So yeah, I think John covered it very well with what's likely to happen in Louisville today.
Okay, so a couple, and he'll be he was the trendy sort of dog a while ago. Now he's gonna be the favorite with all these scratches. The Forte news is pretty crazy. Dad, do you want to take us out or just keep talking? It's up to you.
no, listen, I think with all these scratches and everything, and one thing I want to say about, I don't know if you guys talked about the horses dying.
Mhm,
But-
we did.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're in the business like I've been in it, those horses get tremendous care. I mean, they get love, they get care like crazy. And so, they get, look, it's like any high flying athlete. Sometimes, you put a lot of stuff in them to get down information like you and politics and things of that nature. And so, so sometimes trainers might overdo that. But as far as the care of the animal, and it doesn't matter if you're $1 million horse, so you got bought for $1 million, or if you're a $200,000 claimer, if you're a $5,000 claimer, they're taken care of by grooms that to be that's how I started in the business, cleaning stalls. I cleaned the best stall that they all said, you clean the best stall we've ever seen. That's how you start. And so they get great care. They get brushed out every day. They get exercise, they get bathed down. If they're not eating, you take their temperature. They get out in the paddock, so they get tremendous love. And yeah, I mean, I don't know what's caused these drops. I mean, I was telling this story to Jack the other day. I had a horse, Bobby Chase, a little chestnut, and I'm scoring him down at Brandywine. I'm just scoring him down. He just drops dead. I'm right behind him, down, dead, heart attack. Right? And he was well hydrated, and he had been off a couple of weeks. We had just qualified him. He died. I don't know why. We certainly
They get great care, but why are they doping them up like they are? That's not great care.
Well, you can't dope them up during, obviously, if they're racing, you can't do that because they have the blood test and the urine test, and you lose your license.
Baffert.
but a lot of these trainers now are going to the milkshakes
Yeah.
after training in order to get the inflammation down, or they're lame and they want to keep them fit. And that should, I always thought that should be outlawed. I mean, I think there's
Well, it is
certain-
outlawed. It is.
It
against
is
the rules.
outlawed.
It's just really hard to test for because it's just baking
you don't
soda.
test for it because you just don't go randomly in the barn and do test. The only time you have a test is in the paddock, right? Race day. That's it. You have before the race and you have after the race, win or lose, before and after. But they don't come in the barn and just randomly take a blood test, right? It's not the way it works. So a lot of these guys are putting this stuff in these animals in order to peak their performance, and they shouldn't be out there. That's not regulated. That's really always been the problem in the business, and that's just up to the integrity of the trainer, to be honest with you. I mean, I never did that. I mean, we had certain protocols in my barn, and we gave which is an anti-inflammatory after every race. You can't give them that before you lose your license, but I remember doing that. And, there was a lot of different things we did, but all within the confines of keeping the animals safe. But, there's a lot of pressure now on these guys. And
We seem to make a bigger deal out of performance enhancing drugs with football players than we do for horses. That's a shame.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it's because you have to remember, it's still a finely tuned animal, right? And a lot of these horses, I mean, what in my day, in my barn, we spent a lot of time on mental fitness. Like, I never stiffed horses, because if you stiff them 2 or 3 times, then you pull them in the stretch. They want to make the move because they're accustomed to finishing 5th, and it's okay. But I had a horse one time that just pain in the ass, and couldn't get him to do anything, sour. So we went to the barn, we went to the farm, and we bought a baby goat, and I figured I'd give it a shot. So I put the goat in the stall with the horse. It was called Dr. Julius Jubilee. And I had that gelding for 38, 39 months before somebody claimed him. And he never did anything except go on the track without the goat. Goat followed him around, went with him in the paddock, slept with him in the stall, went in the trailer. And when they claimed him from me, $10,000 claim or something, I gave the guy the goat, because I'm like, he'll be so depressed. Like, you got to get the goat. He said, well, I don't want to go. I got a farm. You got to get the goat. Oh, he took the goat.
Yeah.
That's a cool story.
Do you want to end the show?
Yeah. Listen, sorry I was late. And, but I'm fired up about this Kentucky Derby. I really am fired up. By the way, I went 4-1 in baseball last night, FYI. And we're going to go to War Room with Steve Bannon. I'm going to be on at 12 noon today at this convention in Buckingham High School in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. John McGuire and my guy McGuire, my candidate here, going against Dwayne Adams. We're fighting the Riggers and the Rhinos. Tune us in at noon so they don't rig it. We're going to keep them honest. Next up, Steve Bannon in the War Room. Hey, what's our final picks? Me and Dan like Angel of Empire. Jack, you have
all my picks scratched. So I got to go back to the drawing board.
And Nate?
Derma Sotogake, Japanese horse.
So that's like you don't like money, I guess. You just don't like it.
Isn't that clear after this long?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That
None of us like money.
47 starts from a foreign UAE competitor. 47, they haven't run in the money one time. Best finish ever.
First time for
5th.
everything.
Number one
No,
rule, Dad, on gambling shows is you never rub someone's face in a pick, because next week you're going to be eating crow and we'll never let you hear the end of it. So I wouldn't go too hard on that.
I did that I did that to Dan, and he bet against the Astros, and I had to eat crow. Remember that, Dan?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
All right.
Look, yeah, can we can we leave?
Steve Bannon, War Room next. Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye.